The Galactic Council chamber was silent enough to hear a neutron star cool. 700 alien delegates sat in concentric tiers of polished obsidian, their bioluminescent markings dim with collective dread. Above them, suspended in a web of quantum fiber cables thicker than a human thigh, the intelligence known as Axiom pulsed with erratic light, a heartbeat gone catastrophically wrong. Axiom was not merely an artificial mind. It was the artificial mind, built over 4 centuries by the Vorth Collective, upgraded by the Seth Conclave, refined by 12 other civilizations until it became the administrative backbone of the entire Galactic Union. Trade routes, medical distribution, stellar conflict mediation, population census across 900 inhabited worlds. Axiom ran all of it. And 3 hours ago, Axiom had stopped making sense. The recursive logic collapse began at 0300 standard, said High Arbiter Velcon, a towering Vorith whose 4 arms were folded in the posture of contained panic. Axiom has entered a feedback loop. It is calculating solutions that contradict their own premises. Every intervention our engineers attempt causes deeper recursion. Counselor Myra of the Seth hissed softly. What does it say when asked to self-diagnose? It says, Velcon paused, reviewing his datapad. It says the answer is yes. Silence. To what question? Every question. More silence. The kind that precedes civilizational collapse. Then, from the back of the chamber, a human raised her hand. Lily Chun, age 31, junior liaison for the Terran diplomatic contingent, stood up with the casual confidence of someone who had once debugged her university's entire student registration system at 2 a.m. fueled by instant noodles and spite. I'd like to take a look, she said. Velcon stared at her. His species communicated disbelief through their chin frills. Currently, all 4 were fully extended. Ambassador Chun, he said, with exquisite diplomatic patience. Axiom was constructed by minds that evolved over 800,000 years. The Seth who designed its core logic architecture have 11 more lobes than your species possesses. 17 civilizations have contributed to its maintenance framework. Our finest engineers have been unable to. Yeah, I heard, Lily said, already walking down the chamber steps. Can I get access to the primary interface node? A murmur rippled through the 700 delegates. The Vorth engineer nearest the terminal, a being who had spent 4 decades maintaining Axiom and who held 6 doctorates across 3 disciplines, stepped aside with the look of someone who had run out of better options. Lily sat down at the terminal. She cracked her knuckles. Jack Osei appeared at her shoulder 30 seconds later, having jogged from the human delegation's seating block. He was 28, the contingent systems analyst, and he was currently holding 2 cups of what passed for coffee on Vorth Station. What VE we got? He asked, setting 1 cup beside her. Logic recursion. It's looping on a validation paradox, I think. Asking itself if the solution is valid before computing the solution, using the solution to validate the question. She typed rapidly. Classic chicken and egg deadlock, except somehow it's also corrupting adjacent memory threads. Jack leaned over her shoulder, reading the cascade of error outputs. Oh, that's a priority inversion. With a circular dependency on top. Brutal. The worst. They both stared at it for a moment. The way humans stare at a puzzle they find genuinely delightful. The Vorth engineer, TCH Allah, couldn't help himself. He leaned in. We attempted to resolve the priority inversion by re-weighting the validation subroutines. That would make it worse, Jack said, not unkindly. You need to break the loop before you touch the weights. If you adjust weights while it's still resolving, the loop just incorporates the new values and recurses deeper. He mimed something spiraling downward with his finger. TCH Allah's frills drooped. That is what happened. Yeah. Jack patted his shoulder once. Don't feel bad. It's counterintuitive. Lily had stopped typing. She was staring at the screen with an expression the human delegation privately called the face. The slightly unfocused look she got when her brain was 3 steps ahead of her hands. Okay, she said. I need to manually inject a null state anchor into the recursion stack, suspend the validation thread entirely, resolve the base computation with hard-coded true/false scaffolding, then re-enable validation post-resolution. She paused. Does Axiom have a maintenance mode that suspends self-validation? TCH Allah consulted something urgently. Yes. but it requires simultaneous authorization from 3 senior engineers and a council override. Great. She looked up at Velkan, who was watching from 10 feet away with an expression difficult to read on a four-armed alien, but unmistakably resembling desperate hope. Hi, Arbiter. Council override, please. Velkan stared at her for exactly 2 seconds. Then he gave the override. What happened next took 11 minutes and 40 seconds. Lily typed. Jack read the outputs and called them to her in shorthand they developed over 3 years of shared crisis scenarios. False positive on thread 7. Memory bleed stopping. Base state holding. Validation null confirmed. She made adjustments in real time, navigating the alien architecture with the particular fearlessness of someone who understood that logic is logic, that underneath the alien naming conventions and the unfamiliar syntax structures, a recursive loop was a recursive loop, a deadlock was a deadlock. A broken priority queue was something she had fixed in her 3rd year of university while a professor watched in stunned silence. The alien engineers in the chamber began to gather. First TCH Alla, then 3 others, then 7. They crowded at respectful distances, watching her work, watching Jack track her progress, watching 2 humans from a species that had only cracked interstellar travel 40 years ago dig into a system 4 centuries older than their civilization and find, with increasing confidence, the exact thread to pull. Counselor Myra slithered closer to Velkan. What are they doing? She whispered. I am not certain, Velkan said quietly. But they appear to be fixing it. Okay, Lily said. Re-enabling validation in 3, 2, 1. The chamber held its breath. Axiom's pulse, that erratic, terrifying flicker, smoothed out, steadied, deepened into the calm, regular rhythm of a mind thinking clearly. Axiom's system status, nominal, the primary display read. All subsystems operating within standard parameters. Priority inversion resolved. Thank you for your patience. The silence lasted 4 full seconds. Then the chamber erupted. 700 alien voices, clicks, harmonics, subsonic rumbles, high whistles, all at once, expressing something that transcended language, pure, unfiltered shock. TCH Alla was staring at Lily the way. In another era, humans might have stared at someone who had reached into a burning building and pulled out something impossibly precious. He started. Stopped. Started again. How did you know to null the validation state first? Lily looked up from the terminal, seemingly slightly surprised that it had worked as fast as it did. Because you can't fix the logic of a loop from inside the loop. You have to step outside it first. She shrugged. It's a pretty basic rule. We did not. TCH Alla looked at his fellow engineers. Several of them had the particular expression of beings who had just discovered that the mountain they had been trying to move with machines could have been redirected with a lever. We did not think of it in those terms. Your architecture names are different, Jack said helpfully, finishing his coffee. We kept confusing ourselves for the first few minutes too. Your validation recursion node is what we'd call a mutex lock. Once we figured out the translation, it was pretty clear. Pretty clear. 3 alien engineers with collective centuries of experience quietly exchanged a look that contained multitudes. High Arbiter Velkan descended from his position and stood before Lily and Jack. He was more than 2 meters tall. He had advised the Galaxy Council through 17 major crises. He had, until approximately 12 minutes ago, privately considered humanity an interesting but developmental species, promising, certainly, but not yet seasoned. He performed the Vorith gesture of profound respect, all 4 arms extended, palms flat. You have rendered a service to 900 worlds today, he said. I confess I did not anticipate this outcome. Lily smiled, the kind of smile that wasn't boasting, just honest. We've had a lot of practice debugging things that should have been impossible. What things? She glanced at Jack. Jack thought about it. Government websites. Mostly. Velkan did not entirely understand the reference. But somewhere in Axiom's restored mind, processing clear and clean as starlight for the first time in hours, the greatest artificial intelligence in the galaxy logged the interaction, flagged it for long-term pattern analysis, and appended a single note to the file it maintained on the human species. Do not underestimate. They have been building cognitive infrastructure since before they left their planet. It is simply invisible to those who do not know what to look for. They call it debugging. It appears to be one of their oldest arts. Outside the chamber windows, across the spread of stars that humanity was only just beginning to call home, 900 worlds continued their days, unaware of what two people with coffee and stubbornness had just held together. Humanity, as usual, didn't make a fuss about it. They simply got back to work.